to space, the last frontier. How would you feel if I told you that the secret to space exploration might lie in a small animal living in the forest of Madagascar? You probably feel very cold as the bears you're holding, right? And actually these animals are also very cold because what they're doing is hibernating and they're dropping their temperature. So I see you're quite relaxed, but relax even more and I'll explain you how these little furry animals might help us reaching the stars. So the animals I'm talking about are, of course, lemurs. They live only in Madagascar, and most of them, they like to move it, as you can see here. Okay? There are around 100 different species of lemurs, and sadly, 90% of them are endangered species. So lemurs come in all shapes and sizes. For example, we have big lemurs, the Shifaka, who also likes to move it a lot. We have very small lemurs, like this mouse lemur who is playing with Shaquille O'Neal here. And we also have top models, like our friend here, who is an AA. However, the lemur I want to talk about today is very, very special. It's called a fat-tailed dwarf lemur. And you can tell why. It has a huge tail. And it uses it to store fat when things go wrong in Madagascar during the dry season. Okay? And this guy is very special because it can hibernate. It can use the fat that stores in his tail to endure this dry season. So many mammalian species are capable of hibernation, not only this dwarf lemur. And why do they do that? So they enter in hibernation as a strategy to survive when there are very few resources in nature, such as food or water. Usually these conditions are associated with winter, hence the name hibernation, hibernia. But recently, a lot of species were discovered to actually hibernate in deserts, in tropical climates, etc. Right. So what is exactly hibernation? So when one of these lemurs is hibernating, he's reducing his whole metabolism, meaning that their heartbeat goes from 180 heartbeats per minute to around 3 heartbeats per minute. Also, its temperature mimics the one in the ambient, and he's defending the temperature the whole time. So it's an active process. Also, they have no brain activity, and what is more important is that after this hibernation period, they arise without any muscle loss or any brain injuries. So these guys are amazing because these conditions would kill any other animal. Also, a thing that is very little known is that hibernation is not a process that lasts for, this whole period. Actually, they have to get active and rewarm themselves once a week or once every 2 weeks. Here you can see the temperature, and you can see that this is the whole hibernation period, but you can see that sometimes they wake up, and then they either warm and they regain activity for a few hours, and they go back to hibernation. So I was not lucky enough to go to Madagascar to pick up the samples, but this is my colleague and friend, Sheena, or what she likes to call herself these days, Sheena the Jungle Queen. And yes, we need more brave scientists like her, so hooray for female scientists today as well. So she collected the samples from these animals. We collected samples from the fat from the tail several times during the year. And then, while the animals were hibernating and while they were not hibernating, and we use this machine, which probably most of the people in the audience know what it is. I was expecting to tell you about it while we're having some beers, but what we do with these samples is to sequence them so we can see which genes are being expressed. And by comparing these genes and these samples when they're hibernating and when they are not, we can pinpoint which are the genes that are responsible for this hibernation phenotype. So here I've depicted in blue the genes that are involved in this particular phenotype. So they express in very unique patterns, and we've identified so far a few hundred genes that are responsible for hibernation. So what are these genes doing? So most of them are working in preventing strokes, because the circulation of the blood is very, very low. So blood tends to accumulate in certain organs, so they could die. So it's prevent clotting. Also, genes related to muscle development, so they don't lose muscle after a hibernation period. And most of the genes are related to lipid metabolism, how they store the fat, how they burn it, etc. Another thing I wanted to say is that remember that these guys are critically endangered. So I think it's important to, make a little extra effort on conservation, and not only because they're cute, because they are very cute, but because they might be important for not losing this stuff. And perhaps one day we could hear on the radio, this is a small nap for a lemur, but a giant leap for space exploration. Thank you.